Acer Swift 3 Review. Please take 3 seconds to click the subscribe button on our channel for more upcoming videos. The Acer Swift 3 is an exercise in price and compromise. When it comes to a budget laptop like the Acer Swift 3, it's hard to have high expectations, but that's exactly where this laptop has found itself at the start of the year. We've consistently reviewed it as one of our favorite ultrabooks, and the 2020 model is no different. While the Dell XPS 13 might be one of the premier ultrabooks, the Acer Swift 3 surprisingly doesn't lag too far behind either in terms of performance, and you can get it for less than half the price of the XPS 13. Acer sells a wide range of Swift 3 configurations. The $499 base model comes with an AMD Ryzen 5 3500U processor, 4GB of RAM, a 128GB SSD and an AMD Radeon Vega 8 GPU. The 14-inch Acer Swift 3 I reviewed costs $699. The Ultrabook is packed with a 10th Gen Intel Core i5 1035G1 processor, 8GB of RAM, a 512GB SSD and integrated Intel UHD graphics. You can bump that up to a $799 configuration, which comes with a 10th Gen Intel Core i5 1035G4 CPU, 8GB of RAM, a 512GB SSD and Intel Iris Plus graphics. Acer continued its minimalist design aesthetic with this year's Acer Swift 3. Definitely taking a cue from the Apple MacBook Air, the thin, lightweight aluminum chassis should feel familiar to anyone acquainted with earlier Acer Swift 3 models. The matte silver finish with polished Acer logo on the back is about as flashy as the laptop gets, and, for some, that's exactly what they're looking for. Needless to say, you will have to supply the personality yourself. The Swift 3 measures in at 12.6 by 8.5 by 0.6 inches and weighs 2.7 pounds, making the device incredibly portable without feeling flimsy. In fact, once our cat got bored with the box, and decided to investigate the power cable, she brought the open, running laptop down off a 3.5-foot tall desk, onto a hardwood floor and bolted, leaving no visible, or noticeable damage to the exterior, or the internals of the laptop. While not in any way recommended, as a test to run on your own machine, it's good to know that there's a chance that the Acer Swift 3 will survive in the real world. Speaking of opening it up, the Island-style keyboard features responsive, chiclet keys and a Windows Hello-enabled fingerprint scanner. While some might find the keyboard to be a bit cramped, the keys are spaced well for a laptop of its size and, the black keys are backlit with soft white LEDs for better visibility. The trackpad is a good size and responds well during everyday, general use. It also handled itself pretty well in a few PC gaming sessions of Stellaris and Civilization 6, but anything more than that will need a separate mouse or gamepad. As for ports, Acer loaded up 2020's Swift 3 with a USB 2.0, a USB 3.0, and a USB-C Thunderbolt 3 port to go along with an HDMI port and headphone mic jack. There's no SD card reader or optical drive, but that's pretty typical of an ultrabook nowadays. The Swift 3 features a 14-inch Full HD 1920 by 1080 display that isn't the crispest on the market, but which is more than enough for most purposes. Several hours of HD streaming movies looked excellent, bright enough in all but the most direct sunlight. The display's color profile doesn't stand out necessarily, but it feels like it at least meets the standard of a modern 1080p display. The bezels along the sides and top aren't the thinnest available right now, but they aren't the thickest either. The bottom bezel is the largest, but it isn't awful. The total screen real estate feels appropriate for the overall size of the laptop, so it never gets to feeling like things are more cramped than they should be for a 14-inch display. In fact, having 2 application windows open side by side on screen was absolutely doable with minimal horizontal scroll on Chrome or Microsoft Word. As for the webcam and built-in mic, both are functional, if modest. Neither are good enough for Twitch streaming, professional YouTube broadcasting, or anything along those lines, but they are more than adequate for teleconferencing through Zoom or similar for work purposes. The Swift 3 is generous with ports and perhaps even too giving. A DC in jack for an AC adapter, for example, might be a bit superfluous when users can opt for the speedier USB Type-C port for charging their laptop. On the left side of the laptop, you'll find a DC in jack, an HDMI port, a USB 3.1 Gen 1 Type A port and a USB Type-C port, which supports DisplayPort, Thunderbolt 3 and power delivery. This means you can enjoy faster transfer rates, and connect to multiple 4K displays, if it floats your boat. On the right side, you'll discover a headphone, mic jack, a USB 2.0 Type-A port and a Kensington lock slot. There is no micro SD card slot, but you can always get an external micro SD reader. After running the Acer Swift 3 through a suite of benchmark tests for its CPU, GPU, and battery, we're pleased to say that there's a measurable improvement over last year's model. When it comes to playing video and general use, there's little to complain about with the Acer Swift 3. Running the notoriously resource-hogging Google Chrome, with 24 tabs open, was handled smoothly by the Swift 3, even when one of those tabs was playing through a Udemy course, and another had an active Slack channel going. The system seemed to struggle a bit when trying to run several advertising-heavy tabs, but the same can be said of most systems, and, really, that's more of a societal problem than one limited to a single Acer laptop. The Acer Swift 3 2020 also handled some light gaming through Steam without any trouble, and kept a solid frame rate going through the midpoint of a game of Stellaris, but when that end-game crisis hits, and the Intel UHD graphics GPU is trying to track 200-plus corvettes, and destroyers weaving between a couple of dozen capital ships shooting lasers, and fusion torpedoes, the fans are going to kick in, and you will get a noticeable drop in responsiveness. Meanwhile, the Swift 3 handled multimedia content creation pretty well for a system with 8 GB of RAM. Loading up Photoshop and doing basic photo editing with a dozen or so open files was pretty smooth without any hang-ups. Doja Cat sounded more like Doja Kitty on the Swift 3, but overall, the Swift 3's audio will provide a decent audio experience for users seeking a little dance break with Spotify. I listened to Say So by Doja Cat at max volume on the Acer Swift 3. The music emanating from the bottom-firing dual speakers struggled to fill the room. However, despite the hollow audio, it seemed to be flowing out of the laptop from all angles. I couldn't pinpoint the location of the speakers if you closed your eyes and listened to the music, which is a plus. The audio was somewhat thin, it lacked the full, lush quality you hear on premium speakers. The biggest improvement we saw over last year's Acer Swift 3 came in the battery department. Our battery life test, where we loop a 1080p video, ran for 7 hours and 6 minutes, about the same as older models of the Swift 3, but on the PC Mark X battery test, the Swift 3 ran for 6 hours and 12 minutes on performance mode with a balanced power profile, and made it a full 8 hours, on a modest battery saver mode and balanced power profile. As far as thermal performance, the Swift 3 runs comfortably and never gets noticeably warm, even under duress, and the laptop's fans are effective and whisper quiet while actively cooling everything. The hottest part of the laptop is on the bottom rear of the machine by the battery, so the most likely time you'll notice any heat buildup will be if you're gaming or video editing a project, while sitting up in bed with the laptop on your legs. Even then, it won't get uncomfortably hot the way others might. Where the Swift 3 comes up short is its speakers, unfortunately. The audio from the laptop is tinny, with almost no low end, so it all comes off sounding somewhat flat. It's fine for listening to Spotify or YouTube, while working on a project or typing up a report, but on max volume it's barely audible a room or two away. And that's assuming the Swift 3 is sitting on a flat table, with no obstruction or tablecloth to muffle it. With the downward-facing speakers, sitting the Swift 3 on a bed significantly muffles the sound. This has been a recurring problem with a lot of laptops over the years, and the Acer Swift 3 is no different, but it's something that should have been addressed by now. There's not much to complain about with the Swift 3's comfortable backlit keyboard. My typical typing speed is 80 words per minute on 10fastfingers.com, but on this keyboard, I hit 85 WPM. Travel was a bit on the shallow side, but the keys were satisfyingly clicky and springy. The Swift 3 also has a very quiet keyboard, so while you're plugging away on your laptop in the office, you won't disturb your coworkers while getting into your typing flow. Below the keyboard's arrow keys, you'll find a Windows Hello-enabled fingerprint reader for an added layer of security, and quick access to your laptop via biometric authentication. The Acer Swift 3's touchpad, which is centered beneath the space bar, is perfectly fine with its sleek, undefined left and right click surface. The touchpad responded well to Windows 10 gestures, such as pinch to zoom and 3-finger swipe for opening all windows. The Acer Swift 3 is a solid journeyman. It's reliable, but it's never going to stand out in a crowd. Thanks to its Core i5 processor and integrated GPU, the laptop is a capable workhorse, and can handle most productivity and multimedia tasks. And given its wide variety of ports, you can cobble together a passable work machine. And the $699 price tag is immensely attractive. However, Acer made some serious compromises in the pursuit of a cheaper price point. Consumers should consider the Swift 3's slow SSD, middling display and less than 8 hours of battery life before making a decision. For better performance and a more vivid display, shoppers should opt for the $749 Asus VivoBook S15. But those looking for a dependable multitasker can't go wrong with the Acer Swift 3. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe for more upcoming videos.